The Men of Skin and Bone, a tale of the indigenous people whose language only 8 people know and the efforts of one man to save it. Patagonia, a region in southern Argentina and Chile, is home to a multitude of species of animals suited to the region's colder climates, and also humans, who've acclimated to the harsh environment and thrived in the past on the cold regions of Southern America. These were the men of skin and bone, the Kawésqar, a tribe of strong men with cold hands and a language that is facing its death march. In today's video, we'll learn more about the Kawésqar, their history in the Patagonian region, and the plight of modern linguists to rescue the Kawésqan dialect from extinction. A tribe of men accustomed to a life on little canoes, sailing up and down the cold Patagonian waters in search of prey to hunt. Looking at the majestic landscapes of the Chilean side of the Patagonian region makes a trip down there sound amazing. But there's a tribe of indigenous people that call this place a home for over 6 millennia. The Kawésqan tribe is inhabited by these hunter-gatherer indigenous peoples for at least that long, with archaeological evidence pointing to a long-lasting domain on the region by the tribe, inhabiting the region almost 4 times as big as Switzerland, according to Francisco Gonzalez from the Fundación Pueblo Kawésqar. Studies on the region seem to corroborate the arguments of the Kawésqar tribe, that their dominion on the region spans as far as history can remember. But now, as they desperately plead for the survival of their tribe, the rich history of the longest-lasting indigenous tribe in Patagonia may be lost, along with the few remaining speakers of their language. The development of language among humans is a fascinating phenomenon. The differences in dialects, inflections, and names can be significantly altered by the inclusion of a mountain range, an especially fierce river, or even a vast but largely empty stretch of land. As language gets more and more niche, groups learn to communicate in unique ways, which leads to the more than 6.9 thousand recognized languages as recognized by the Summer Institute of Linguistics. The Holy Bible, frequently used as a metric for identifying new languages, has been translated in 2,508 different languages, according to Stephen R. Anderson, writing for the Linguistics Society of America. This becomes relevant with the knowledge that as of 2022, there are only 8 native speakers of the Kawésqar language. But how did this happen? The Kawésqar tribe was, studies show, a nomadic tribe of hunter-gatherers, subsisting on the resources from the wilderness of Patagonia, a region rich in wildlife. They survived from what they got in the region, the men hunting sea lions, otters, birds, and mollusks, the women gathering mollusks by diving in the cold waters with sea lion fat coating their bodies to reduce heat loss. This was the way of living of the Kawésqar tribe until, forced by the changing world the Spanish conquistadors brought, they settled in the region of Puerto Eden or Port Eden and started to slowly abandon their language. Now, there are only 8 recognized speakers of the Kawésqar language, and only one of them is not Kawésqar by birth, a certain Oscar Aguilera, an ethno-linguist in his 70s. The plight of the ethno-linguist to save the Kawésqar dialect has been noticed by Chilean First Lady Irina Caramanos, whose boyfriend, Gabriel Boric, was the president of Chile from March of 2022 to November of 2023. The most fascinating aspect of the Kawésqar language is that its roots can't be identified in any other living languages. Latin, for example, is the root from which Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and other major languages draw, but the Kawésqar language can't be identified, which means that either the Kawésqar created their dialect from scratch, a massively impressive feat, or that the language from which it originates died and it survived. The first mention of the language was made by the French adventurer Jean de la Gilboldière that visited the indigenous tribe between 1688 and 1689. The fight to protect the Kawésqar language from extinction, despite the interest from former First Lady Irina Caramanos, relies on very little effort from official Chilean authorities. Until very recently, the only public school available in Puerto Eden taught exclusively Spanish. Apart from the official discrimination by the Chilean government, the Kawésqar tribe faced the ridicule of neighboring tribes that reportedly mocked them for their dialect, which prompted the Kawésqar to make their language a household-only language. This, explains Aguilera, severely harms the survivability of the language, as the constant use in everyday conversations, work, and leisure environments is necessary for the survival of any language. The Kawésqar language works by agglutination, like, for example, Turkish, which means it connects multiple expressions into one word. One of the curious details of the Kawésqar language is that the tribesmen don't adopt foreign words in their language, but instead create new ones. English did it with words like rendezvous or kindergarten. Portuguese speakers adopted words like network and jeans, but the Kawésqar language refused to adopt words. When presented with something the tribe couldn't make, they don't just adopt the name it's given, like phone or television, but create an entirely new word to describe it. In his heroic efforts to save the Kawésqar language from extinction, Oscar Aguilera went as far as to adopt 2 Kawésqar kids as his own. The children are part of the Tonko family, which already had 8 offspring in that branch. The professor made the offer, the parents authorized, and on his second trip back from Puerto Eden, Oscar returned with 2 of the family's children. Oscar spent his afternoons with the kids after they returned from school, registering their dialects and learning from their patterns of speech and their mannerisms. On his studies of the Kawésqar tribe, he realized amusingly that the tribe rejected the practice of lying as a linguistic compromise. The Kawésqar language is especially suited for truth, he realized. Lying was shunned with fervor amongst the speakers of the dialect. Behind the languages, there's a lot of knowledge, and that's why they should be preserved. They house unique information about the environment where their speakers live, said Aguilera. The fight of the Kawésqar tribe to conserve their language and traditions is unfortunately shared by many indigenous tribes, whose cultures and practices are frequently swallowed by the cultural influence brought by mass media. In spite of this, the efforts of men like Oscar Aguilera may be the difference between the Kawésqar language living or dying. What do you think about this video? Leave your theories and opinions in the comments below.